Welcome back to Snetterton. We've got the final race, round 15 of the 2024 Focus Cup Championship coming up for you. The final race of 3 that these competitors have had today, and this race is based on a random grid by the look of things, so it really has mixed up the way that the grid is going to form up. We've still got the 2 test cars, the petrol engine development cars that are going to enter the championship next year, starting at the back of the grid, the likes of Simon Walton and Gary Mitchell. But for everybody else, I think they were put into the ballot, numbers were drawn out, and that dictates where you line up on the grid for this final race of the championship season. The championship was stitched up before this weekend. Lewis Clark, a back-to-back champion. I think John Baker now confirmed as second in the championship, and I think Simon Watts and Ian Graham will be the next 2 in terms of the championship scoring. I think first, second, third and fourth all sorted already. So this one is going to be an interesting one with this strange looking grid that we're going to have, and we'll guide you through it then. The way that they line up is that Abby Walton starts from pole position, and alongside her is Richard Hall on the front row of the grid. It's Simon Waugh and Alistair Topley, who's done good things so far today, lining up on row number 2. Row number 3 of the grid, it's going to be Adam Winter and Ainsley Bird that line up on row number 3. And Mark McCann has the reigning champion and double champion, 10 times a race winner so far this season, Lewis Clark alongside. Row 5 of the grid, it's the number 23 car of Simon Watts alongside Bryony Davies, with row 6 being John Baker. He's had a couple of wins so far this year, and the number 27 car of Ian Graham. Then as we move on to row number 7, it's Craig Ballantyne and Cameron Ferraro Mack that line up on row number 7, with row number 8 being Craig Appleton and Ian Howard. The 9th row of the grid, Sarah Hall lines up on the inside of the 9th row, and for company she's got the car of Simon Langford. And then row number 10, it is Thomas Brown, who's had a difficult day so far with 2 retirements here at Snetterton, lining up alongside Simon Walton in the first of the petrol engine cars that's coming into the championship next year. And at the back of the grid is number 25, Gary Mitchell. So both Simon Walton and Gary Mitchell, again, starting off the back of the grid in arguably the fastest cars, but they're not out there to score championship points. They'll work their way through the order and may continue with the race, but they may also decide to dive into the pits once they're happy that the cars are being developed in advance of the introduction into the 2025 Focus Cup Championship, which largely will follow the same format as this year, other than it will be a split class. The diesel engine cars and petrol engine cars will join the championship next year for the first time. It's starting to chill off again now. We climb to just north of 16 degrees air temperature. It's back down then, hovering below just 15. The track temperature isn't going to be much warmer than that, but still clear skies and a beautiful autumnal final weekend of racing for the Focus Cup Championship. So Abby Walton in the Monster Energy liveried car, starting from pole position. It's going to be the Liqui Moly liveried car, the number 99 car with its white and blue and red flashes of Richard Hall alongside. Row 2 of the grid, it's the largely green car with its orange flashes and the RAF roundels on it of Simon Waugh, lining up alongside the Powerflex liveried car, yellow, black and white, of Alistair Topley. And row 3 of the grid, it's grey with the orange wing mirrors for Adam Winter, alongside the light blue, black and pink car, which I think is the Swan Flight car, of Ainsley Bird. So we'll wait for the rest of the rows just to line up. This final 15-minute race will bring the curtain down on what's been a thoroughly enjoyable 2024 Focus Cup Championship. And let's see whether Lewis Clark, 10 times a race winner out of the 14 races that we've had so far, can he work his way up to the win again? He did it from 6th earlier on to claim the win earlier on today. Can he do it from 8th on the grid this time through? See the 2 petrol-engined ST 3.5 cars at the back of the grid, which is Gary Mitchell and Simon Walton respectively. Watch out for their progress through the order, because they've got 300 brake horsepower compared to the diesel engine cars, which got about 175, so they should thread their way through. 5-second board is held aloft. Hopefully for the final time today, the red lights come on the gantry, and as we get the race underway, it looks as though it's not a bad start from pole position from Abby Walton, but Richard Hall, I think, was a little bit quicker away when the lights went out. Is he going to have enough momentum to squeeze his way through into the lead of the race by the time they get towards Ritchie's? Yes, I think he is, and should be able to sweep across. And it's Simon Waugh that's there in second place. Alistair Topley's there in 3rd, and Abby Walton drops down into 4th position by the look of things from pole. So this is the opportunity now for Richard Hall to try and build a bit of momentum, and whilst they're all squabbling behind, just try and move away in the lead of the race. And it looks as though that's what he's doing for the moment. It all gets a bit tight further back, as by the look of things there is contact, and one car's going to go around on the exit of the Wilson hairpin. Abby Walton gets tangled up. I think the other car that got tangled up with her was the black and the Dayglow car, which was going to be Craig Appleton, who'd had a good start, but I think he was the car that maybe got into the back of Lewis Clark, and that was what started that little chain reaction, which unfortunately is now going to lead to the retirement of Abby Walton, I'm afraid. So in the evening sunlight. The cars head down in towards the braking area at Agostini. The sun shining directly into our camera lens down there, so difficult to pick up the cars with the shadowing that we've got. But I think it is just the one car that has fallen foul of that little contact coming out of the Wilson hairpin for the first time. But look at the little advantage that Richard Hall has in the lead of the race. Lewis Clark, our champion, sitting directly behind Mark McCann. Mark McCann coming under pressure from the grey and the orange car that sits behind, which will be Adam Winter. And Adam Winter, I think, ran a little bit wide there coming out of Oggies, which has dropped him further down away from the car that he was trying to hunt down. So side by side through Wilson. There goes Bryony Davies at the wheel of number 285. She's coming under pressure from the K&N car that sits directly behind her, but already our race leader, Richard Hall, down in towards the braking area for Brundle and Nelson. What can Lewis Clark do in the car with the pink flashes to the front? The answer is not quite squeeze his way through and past Mark McCann's car at this stage, so he's going to be already from 8th up into 5th position and trying to set about the cars ahead. But has he missed a gear there, or is that a problem? I think there might be a problem. Number 1 car slowing out on track, and Lewis Clark, who has been so quick all season, I think he's going to retire. And where's he retiring the car? Right on the outside of the circuit at the bomb hole. He would be well advised to try and creep that car totally out of harm's way. But if the car has faltered there and he hasn't got any momentum, it comes to a halt. But that's not in a safe place at all, and that will need the assistance of marshals. But are they going to be able to even get out there? Because it's a long way from the marshal's post to get out there and try and sort him out. So running very, very wide, bouncing over the grass is Simon Langford in his efforts to try and undo Craig Appleton. The two of those were side by side as they came out of Murray's. I think they'll still be side by side as they come over the start-finish line. But that car stricken out on circuit begs the question as to how that might get dealt with. Localised yellows for the moment. And there goes number 27, which is the JCB backed car of Ian Graham. I don't think that was the original car he was scheduled to get behind the wheel of, but we are going safety car, I'm afraid. So Marshall's post directly opposite us, displaying the safety car board and the yellow flags, because the stricken car of the champion from this year and the champion from last year, the only driver to have successfully defended a Focus Cup Championship crown over the years, is stranded out there on circuit, I'm afraid. So that is going to need recovery from where it has come to rest, and that will just take a while to be sorted. Focus Cup first appeared in 2019 when Andy Wilmot was the first ever champion. Andy Godfrey won the championship in 2020. It was Simon Rudd that secured it in 2021. Liam McGill was the champion in 2022. Lewis Clark claimed the championship in 2023, and of course is now our champion for 2024. And as a result of that championship, the prize he gets for winning the championship this year is that he will be driving one of the Mark 3.5 STs, 300 brake horsepower cars, which should be about, anywhere between, depending on the length of the circuit, somewhere like Brands Hatch Indy, a short circuit, probably 3 or 4 seconds a lap quicker. But some of the longer circuits, like the Snetterton 300, you're probably looking at nearly 6 seconds a lap quicker than the outgoing diesel engine cars, which still remain part of the championship for next year, but will be joined by those petrol machines, which are still being developed in this race. And it's been the same all season, really. They built the first car, Simon Walton, the man behind the championship, working with Gary Mitchell to develop the car. They've brought it out in every race and qualified it and raced it, but always started at the back, and sometimes they've continued in the race, but other times they've sort of headed towards the front, been leading almost the race on occasions, pull into the pit lane because they don't want to get involved in the championship battle. And they've done that at every single round to develop the cars in the true racing environment, which is a really good way of doing it. So we remain under safety car. Lewis Clark's car stranded down the outside of the bomb hole. We'll need the recovery crew to get to it. Now, they won't probably drag him all the way back in towards the pit lane area. They can head in towards the infield section of the bomb hole, and there should be some gaps in the barriers there to get him out of harm's way. The BMW safety car picks up the pack. So let's just run you through the order then. Under safety car, number 99, Richard Hall leads the way. Second is 41, Alistair Topley. And third is number 22, Simon Waugh, having a better outing this time through. Fourth is number 64, which is Mark McCann. Fifth is number 4, which is going to be the car of Adam Winter. Completing the top 6 is number 10, John Baker, who's, I think, as good as confirmed as second in the championship. There's the damage we can see also to the number 23 car. I think that also happened on the first lap, which is Simon Watts. So after John Baker, who's 6th, and 7th is number 57, which is Ainsley Bird. 8th place is number 37, and that is going to be Ian Howard, who's made good progress actually, because he started 16th on the grid, so he's already gained 8 places in the first lap, really, before the safety car came out. 9th place is going to be number 27, which is Ian Graham, and then completing the top 10 is number 285, which is Bryony Davies, who completes the top 10 at this stage. As for the ST cars, the test cars of Simon Walton and Gary Mitchell off the back of the grid, Simon Walton started 20th and is up into 14th. Gary Mitchell started 21st and is up into 17th. So, as expected, they have made some progress, but this safety car period will delay their progress at this stage, whilst we get, I think, first of all, the car of Lewis Clark out of harm's way, and also Abby Walton's car needing some assistance as well. So, a couple of course vehicles out there just to deal with the incidents there. And all of the time, whilst that's going on, the clock will continue to tick. So, that reduced speed they had around the circuit, but 15-minute race, and then with a safety car on a big long circuit like the Snetterton 300, we can't afford that many laps behind the safety car. And I think from going safety car, we are now seeing the red lights flashing on the marshal's post, and the red flags come out instead. So looks as though we are going to stop this race with what at the time 7 minutes and 48 seconds were on the clock when the red flags came out. So hopefully that will mean we'll get some sort of restart. It will mean another green flag formation lap. It will also mean the fact that Lewis Clark will not be able to take part in any restart of this one. His car is being towed well and truly out of harm's way. So that car being dealt with. Abby Walton's the other car that's just being dealt with out on circuit. She was involved in that little incident up at the Wilson hairpin, which caused a bit of damage to her car. She was able to get the car out of harm's way. So whether Abby was just needing a little bit of help after she'd parked the car up, we'll have to wait and see. But yeah, initially safety car, but now red flag. So all of the cars will come back and line back up on the grid again, I'm afraid. So that's going to be a subtle delay. Now, what were we at? We were at, 7 minutes and 48 seconds when the clock stopped, according to our official timekeepers. So hopefully that will be the remaining time that is left, which will give us enough to do probably 3, maybe 4 laps to bring the curtain down on the 2024 championship. So I know Focus Cup recently announced what their 2025 calendar was going to look like. They are largely, as they have done for the most of this year, supporting the GT Cup Championship next year. Not at every single round, but there's a good number of rounds where they are, again, supporting GT Cup. And hopefully that means that, again, there'll be some fantastic racing that we can bring you throughout the 2025 championship season. So Marshall's on the grid, waiting to gather up the cars when they arrive. Of course, we'll go back a lap to the point that they were running probably at the end of the first lap, and the grid will be based on that. And of course, it just takes a while for the marshals to get confirmation from race control, who need it confirming from the timekeepers as well, as to the way that the grid will line up. The 2025 calendar was announced, and let's just have a quick look. What's it, 25th of September, so about a week and a half ago. Provisional calendar, so the 2025 championship will get underway with its first race of the season on the 29th of March at Donington Park, on the Grand Prix circuit as well, at Donington Park on the 29th of March, where they'll be supporting the GT Cup Championship. Then they'll head to Silverstone on the National Circuit on the 19th of April. Their third weekend of racing, it will be another Grand Prix circuit. It will be at Brands Hatch on the 17th of May, where they'll again be supporting the GT Cup Championship. Then it's back here at Snetterton on the 7th of June, so the middle part of the year we'll see them head to Norfolk rather than the tail end of the championship, and again supporting GT Cup. They'll once more be part of the Supercar Pageant event up at Alton Park in Cheshire for their 5th weekend of racing. That will be the back end of June, the 28th of June. Then it's up to Croft, supporting the Battle of Britain meeting up there for the 6th weekend of racing. That will be on the 23rd of August. And then the final round will take place at Donington Park on the National Circuit on the 20th of September, again supporting the GT Cup. So that's the way the 2025 calendar looks. Good to see Abby Walton out and walking towards the ambulance. So maybe she was just feeling a little bit second-hand after whatever happened down there on that first lap where contact was made. If you want any further details on the championship as well, it is focuscup.co.uk, focuscup.co.uk. You head towards that website, and if you want to inquire how you can get involved in this championship in 2025, please do so. Simon Walton and the team will be very happy to invite you to one of the test days, for which there is a charge for you to see whether Focus Cup racing is for you or not. I say it is very much an arrive and drive championship. There's a fixed fee for the weekend. You pay that money, and the team transport the car to the circuit for you. All of the cars are centrally prepared. The fee that you pay includes Friday testing, it includes entry to the race meeting, it includes all of the consumables, so the likes of tyres, the likes of brakes, the likes of the fuel that you're going to use. The only thing you need to budget for on top of that is damage, of course. Should you damage the car, of course there's going to be an additional charge for that. But equally as much, there are other conversations you can have with them about a damage arrangements, for want of a better term. It's not called an insurance because it's not the way that they do it. It wouldn't be appropriate to call it an insurance, but there are ways that you can pay additional money which covers off any damage that you might wish to do. So Focus Cup Racing would be the place to go for that one. Good to see Abby Walton out of the car, just holding her hand a little bit there as she got out of the car, but clearly she is okay. And understandably, after any impact accident, what the drivers always have to do is they always have to go to the medical centre for the mandatory checkup. Doesn't matter whether it's a very small bump or whether it's a big accident, you always have to go to the medical centre to have a checkup, just to check that you are absolutely fine, sign the appropriate paperwork that there's ever needs signing, and then you can wander back into the paddock and crack on again. So we can see all of the cars lined up there, not quite on the grid as yet. They're still being just held a little bit further down the centre straight before they will then be ushered up towards their starting positions for this restart, for which on my timing screen at the moment it is showing it is going to be 15 minutes for the restart, which surprises me. We've got a bit of time in hand here at Snetterton before we have to curtail our activities for the day. There's a hard curfew here at Snetterton where all of the racing has to cease by 6:30, and that's not just racing cease. That means that checkered flag has to come out 3 or 4 minutes before that, so that all of the cars have entered the Parc Ferme area and all of their engines are off and nothing's circulating around the track by 6:30. So on the basis of we are now only just past 5:30, we've got time to slot this one in because of all of the racing activity here today at Snetterton. The Focus Cup Championship is the very last race of the day, so there is time to get a decent restart underway and give these drivers even better value for money so that they do get the full amount of racing in. But we'll see what the grid looks like as and when they are brought into position. So conversation's still going on as to exactly the way that the cars are going to line up. The start line marshals working as hard as ever, as have all of our marshals around the circuit. If you want to become a marshal, then why not log on to marshals.co.uk, marshals.co.uk, the official website for the British Motorsport Marshals Club, who are the most professional organisation that you could ever get involved with. Huge amounts of training are given. You're not just popped out there on a post on your own. You're put out there with a very experienced team around you to guide you through all of the certain aspects of marshalling. A very good way to get involved is sign up to a taster day as well, which you can do on marshals.co.uk. Sign up to a taster day, any circuit, any racing club, any championship, be delighted to have you. You get met in the morning if you sign up to a taster day. You know, circuit, a venue that's convenient to you, a date that's convenient to you. You get met in the morning by an experienced marshal, and they will in the morning give you almost a guided tour of the circuit. They'll walk you round race control so you can understand all of the different roles that you could get involved with if you want to head in towards race control. They bring you into timekeeping so you understand how the timekeeping works for all of the cars. In other words, you know, how they're ordered, how the lap times come in, how the sector times come in, how the results are issued, and everything as well. We sometimes see them headed into the commentary box as well to understand what we do up in the commentary box and all of the information and pictures and CCTV cameras that are available to you there. You often get to see them in scrutineering as well. Scrutineering is the process that all of the cars go through to check that A, they're safe to race. They have to go to scrutineering before they head out onto circuit. Also, all the technical checks are done there to make sure that the cars comply with the technical regulations. Also, the drivers will have their crash helmets and hands devices and overalls and boots and gloves all checked as well to check that they are in an appropriate condition to be able to use for racing. You also get the opportunity to head out onto one of the individual marshals posts as well to understand all the different roles that exist on a marshal's post. So you've got your incident marshals, you've got your flag marshals, you've got your post chiefs, You've got those that are involved with the lights as well, the FIA lighting that we have around here at Snetterton. So there's huge amounts of understanding and knowledge of different roles that you can do, and that's without mentioning the likes of the assembly area where all the cars are assembled in grid order before they come out, what happens in Parc Fermé where they go after the race, again to make sure that the cars aren't touched, so that technically they are as they came off the circuit. Sometimes you see them heading onto the weighbridge, which again means that then the weights of the vehicles are checked to ensure that they comply with the regulations, which in the case of the Focus Cup, minimum weight is 1,300 kilograms, including the driver, in all of the race gear as weighed at the end of any session. So if you are below that, then you don't meet minimum weight limit, so you get excluded. So all of these things, you get to do all of that in the morning, this huge guided tour with your experienced marshal, with the other team that are on the same taster day as you. You won't be on your own. And in the afternoon, you head out onto a marshal's post to get the experience, the true experience of being out there on a marshal's post. With an experienced team around you, you are never asked if you're there on a taster day to go out onto a live circuit. Only once the race is neutralised will you then be asked to go out and help with the clearing up of an incident or the sweeping up or the checking of the track for stones and debris and things like that. So marshals.co.uk. Sign up to a taster day. Come and join us in 2025. What have you got to lose? So I think news is reaching the grid as to what we are going to see. It did say 15 minutes for the restart on my timing screen. It's now saying 8 minutes, which is about what I expected, because it was, 7 minutes and 48 seconds, did I say, when the red flags came out? So looks as though it is going to be an 8-minute restart. One of our scrutineers, Peter French, there in the black jacket to the right, I think just walking down to usher the cars up, and then we should see them line up in the order that they were the lap prior to the red flag coming out. Or are they going back into original grid order? Alistair Topley is being ushered to one side of the track. There we go. So he's being ushered to what would be the even number side of the track. Is he going to line up in? I think he's now questioning as to where he ought to be lining up. Conversations going on. But the marshals will have been issued the information that they need. And therefore there is Alistair Topley. Just I think double checking. Are you sure that's where you want me? Right, okay, I better go and park there then. Simon Wall's heading towards what will be the odd side of the track. So are they going to line up in original grid order? I think they are, you know. I think they are. Number 99 should be further up through the order. Richard Hall, if we're going to original grid order. But from the camera angle that we're looking at, they still look as though they're being held a bit further down the grid from where they ought to be. So there is no car on pole position at the moment. So it's going to take another 2 or 3 minutes just to sort this one out. Alistair Topley is lining up on what would be second on the grid, I think, looking at that camera angle. So who's going to start on pole? So everybody else now just being brought up to their respective positions. Right, there's a bit of reversing now going on. So is that John Baker that's reversing on the grid? I think it is. So he's having to reverse back down a position. And then being ushered up a bit more is Adam Winter, who's now being brought alongside Mark McCann's car, I think that is. So at the moment it's Alistair Topley, Simon Waugh, Mark McCann, Adam Winter, John Baker, and that's when I start to lose sight of the cars. Actually, Ainsley Bird, I should say, I think is next. So I think that's the top 6. And after that, from that camera angle, it's making it slightly more difficult to see. Is it the number 27 car next, potentially? Which would be the JCB car, would it not, of Ian Graham? Yes, I think it is. I think it is Ian Graham's car that's next up. Not the green and grey one who was originally scheduled to be driving this weekend, but the JCB liveried one. And then after that, then it really does become difficult to try and spot who it is. And I'm going to hazard a guess. And I'm going to hazard a guess at Ian Howard, I think, would be the next one. Maybe. Number 37. I think it is. I think it is 37 thereafter. But it just becomes a bit difficult then with the camera angles that we can see to try and pick them out. But one thing I can confirm is that, yeah, there is a gap where somebody should be on pole position. So if we go back to the end of the first lap, Now, Abby Walton was already out at that stage, so we'll wait and see. We'll wait to see. They're gathering them all up because they're slotting in the two petrol engine cars back down towards the tail of the grid again. So I'd imagine Simon Walton and Gary Mitchell, despite the fact they'd started to make progress, will probably say, no, I want to start at the back. I'm not involved in the championship squabble. We're just developing these cars for the 2025 championship season. And then once everybody is lined up and all of the checks and balances have been done that everybody is in the right spot, yet the two test cars have gone to the back. I thought they would. Then in the evening sunlight now, we should be getting ready to go. The difficult thing for the drivers, it can't quite tell from that camera angle, but as they come up the centre straight, they'll be looking straight into the setting sun, which does make it very, very difficult to see. Having raced myself here at Snetterton, sort of this time of year and heading in towards sunset, you cannot see a great deal. That sun is straight in your eyes, so a tinted visor or even sunglasses when you're driving can be very, very important. And even more so in these cars as well, because they are diesel engines, you do get a little bit of particulate smoke out of the back of them, which then means you're looking through that particulate smoke into the sunlight, and it does mean that everything is silhouetted. Everything is silhouetted. You're looking through the shadows, and it does make it very, very difficult to judge things, whether it be the car ahead of you, picking out certain things on the periphery, and even apexes as well. So green flag flies. We're going to get the formation lap back underway. It does look as though Alistair Topley is in reality going to be starting from pole position, the number 41 car. So another formation lap, and 8 minutes are on the clock. Let's see what happens this time through. Hopefully it'll be a clean start this time through. It did sort of just bunch up a little bit, as it always does tend to do. It does concertina up there. One car starting from the pit lane is Richard Hall. So this was the car that in theory should have started from pole position. I did wonder where he'd gone. So he has gone into the pit lane, and therefore that number 99 car that had taken the lead of the race and would have been leading at the end of the first lap has indeed either called into the pit lane inadvertently and therefore is stuck there, or has opted to start off the back of the grid from the pit lane area. He might be released, he might get released and be able to join in, but I suspect they might hold him right at the very back and just leave him there until the race gets underway, and then he'll have to join from the tail end of the field. But what is disappointment for him is good news for Alistair Topley, because it does mean in theory now that the 41 car will start from pole position. Alistair Topley, who in the first race of the day was 7th and had less fortune in race number 2 when his car retired on the penultimate lap of the race, when he was down at the bottom section of the Bentley Straight, wasn't he? He was in 3rd place at the time before whatever occurred caused his car to stop on the very final lap of the race. So a bit more weaving to be done to try and build a bit of temperature into the controlled Nankang road tyres that all of these cars run. So just weaving from side to side, just get that surface temperature up, try and build a bit of brake temperature as well. Simon Waugh 2nd on the grid, 3rd on the grid will be Mark McCann, 4th will be Adam Winter, 5th is John Baker, and then 6th, I think I was right when I said I think it was Ainsley Bird that was there in 6th place. I think it was a 57 car that went through in 6th position. So you can see them just utilising all of the track. You can see the little bits of rubber as well that are strewing themselves around the Snetterton circuit, not so much from the Focus Cup cars, but from cars that were running on slick tyres in the race prior. So little bits of tyre that fall off as the tyres wear, pick up if it then ends up on your tyres, can cause a little bit of vibration. But we are hopefully going to get all of the cars round on this formation lap, and a clean 8-minute restart for this one, just to confirm it will be over 8 minutes. So they will be doing just over 2-minute laps, so we should be able to squeeze 4 laps in, I would have thought. Damage to the front end of the number 23 car shouldn't really affect the handling for Simon Watts. Just that front left-hand corner of his car has taken a bit of an impact and caused the light cluster to fall out, the corner of the bumper to drop away as well. That will have been picked up by our marshals wherever it's strewn itself around the circuit. So, final formation lap of the 2025 season underway. I did say last time that hopefully for the final time today the red lights come on the gantry. It wasn't the case because they came on for that red flag, and they'll be back on again now to get this restarted race underway. So up onto not pole position, but in theory what is 2nd place on the grid, but the pole man is absent, comes Alistair Topley. So he's got the outside line. If he gets a good run, he's on the outside line to get his nose ahead and sweep right the way across of Simon Waugh going in towards Ritchie's the first corner. Usually pole position is right up against the pit wall. on the right-hand side of the circuit, the left-hand side of your screens as you look at it, where you can see that blank spot is, where we should have had the number 99 car of Richard Hall, but his car is in the pit lane. It does look as though it is going to start from the pit lane. It has not been released, so he'll start from the pit lane once everybody has passed. 5-second board is held aloft. Fingers crossed this time for the final time. We see the red lights come on the gantry. 8 minutes are on the clock. Red lights on, red lights go out now, and we're away and racing, and it looks as though it is a good start from Alistair Topley this time through, who dropped the clutch at the right time with the right amount of revs, and he's going to hang on to the lead of the race. He's got Simon Waugh, though, that's trying to overlap him on the outside line going in towards Ritchie's corner, but that's not quite going to work. Mark McCann slots through into third place. Fourth place is Ian Graham. John Baker's there in fifth, but under pressure from Adam Winter. The two test cars at the tail end of the field, the petrol engine 300 brake horsepower machines, will work their way through the order. We also need to keep an eye on what Richard Hall is doing. The number 99 car, having started from the pit lane, I think has been able to rejoin at the tail end of the field, but he's left himself a lot of work to do. And of course, with a reduced time allowance this time, 15 minutes were originally allocated, he's only got 8 minutes in which to try and work his way through the order. So everybody's safely through the first couple of corners this time through, and in full attack mode, the number 27 car of Ian Graham trying to sneak up the inside of Mark McCann. Can he make it stick at Agostini? Yes, he can. The JCB yellow liveried machine looks to try and wiggle his way through. Alistair Topley still leads from Simon Waugh, and what's going on further back, it looks as though another place might be gained here, as Ian Graham was now trying to fully get the job done. He hasn't quite got past Mark McCann as yet, and still can't do it, actually. Good defensive work from Mark McCann to hang on to third place. Ian Graham tried his hardest, but couldn't quite do it. He still sits there in fourth place, with John Baker right behind him in fifth position. So they head on to the Bentley Straight for the first time of this 8-minute restart for the race. Alistair Topley leading the way, hoping for better fortunes at this part of the circuit than he had earlier on when the car retired right down at this point of the track. He leads the pack for the first time, and for Simon Waugh, he'll be hoping for good things. Remember, Simon finished third in the championship last year. He retired from the race earlier on today when he didn't have much luck. In the second race of the day, he was only 15th. Well, here he is now in second place and attacking for the lead of the race. Safely through Brundle and Nelson have gone the main pack. Through there goes Cameron Ferraro-Mack in his first weekend of racing in the Focus Cup. And we've had the change for the lead because Simon Waugh has picked up the lead of the race from Alistair Topley. Mark McCann still under attack from Ian Graham as they work out who wants to be third and who wants to be fourth at this stage. John Baker can't quite live with the lead four. He sits there in fifth place, the man who is destined to finish runner-up in the championship this year, which is still going to be his best ever championship result for John, having finished fourth in the championship for the last couple of seasons. And now comes the attack, and it looks as though Mark McCann is under full attack again from Ian Graham, who's looking for the inside line as they head through Ritchie's corner. Mark McCann on the outside line through Ritchie's. Ian Graham will have the inside line when they get up towards the braking area for Wilson, and has surely made it through. We've also had the change for the lead again as Alistair Topley goes back into the lead of the race from Simon Waugh. Mark McCann and Ian Graham are still at it. They've been side by side for half of the previous lap. They're still side by side at the start of this one, and all of this squabbling amongst the top four is just allowing John Baker in fifth place to begin to edge up towards them with just under 5 minutes to go. Who's there completing the top six at the moment? It was going to be in sixth place, the number 37 car, I think, that's there in sixth position, which is Ian Howard, who's had a good run in a couple of the races so far today. Simon Walton in the petrol engine 3.5 ST, diving up the inside of Craig Ballantyne, and that will be a place gain there for the number 20 car. Craig Ballantyne might lose out a further place here as Thomas Brown, who hasn't had much luck and has had 2 retirements today, looks to try and move his way through. But the top 4, top 5, top 6 all separated by not a great deal. 7th place is the grey and orange car, so that'll be Adam Winter, I think, that's there in 7th position. But out of Williams and onto the Bentley Straight with 4 minutes still remaining. How far up can we usher the petrol engine car of Simon Walton? He will pick off without any trouble at all Adam Winter. He's got an extra, 125 brake horsepower, so easily picking off the diesel engine cars. It'd be good to see the petrol engine cars come into the championship next year. And Simon Waugh under pressure for second place here. Mark McCann has the inside line up Brundle. Simon Waugh tries to brave it out, but Mark McCann is through and picks up second place. Simon Waugh was leading a lap ago. Well, he's now down into third. He's going to try and fight back on the run to the bomb hole, but Mark McCann surely has got the job done. Yes, he has. He's up to second. Simon Waugh down to third. John Baker there in fourth place, but in full attack mode. Then next up is Ian Howard, and Ian Howard has the first of the test cars behind him, which is Simon Walton's machine, the second of the ABS liveried cars. So on to the brakes. This is lap number 2 of the restart about to be completed. And Mark McCann is looking to see what he can do now that he's moved himself through and ahead of Simon Waugh, who was the race leader when they came over the start-finish line a lap ago. Well, here he comes now. Alistair Topley leads from Mark McCann, Simon Waugh, John Baker. Simon Walton was 5th over the line, but might gain a further place by the time they get towards Ritchie's corner. No, he still remains in 5th. John Baker trying to attack Simon Waugh for 3rd position. In towards the braking area for the Wilson hairpin. Simon Waugh still there in 3rd place. John Baker being shadowed by the man behind this championship, Simon Walton. Simon Walton not wanting to get too involved with the customers. He's got Ian Howard right behind him. But of course, in a straight line, the number 20 car has a lot more power. Simon Walton, who used to race minis. He was a very good mini racer with Simon Walton, when he used to race in the Cooper category. And then moved away to set up the Focus Cup a good number of years ago, and it's been a huge success. No, motor racing is cheap, but Focus Cup racing is about as cheap as it gets. Now he's got John Baker ahead of him, but he's got Ian Howard behind him. Then right behind that is Ian Graham. Ian Graham is coming under attack from the next of the cars as well, which I think might be Adam Winter. Adam Winter has also got someone queuing up behind him, which is Thomas Brown, who's worked his way really well from 19th on the grid. Thomas Brown, he is now up to 9th place, so 10 places gained for the number 28 car. He's got himself ahead of Craig Ballantyne's K&N machine that time through. Craig Ballantyne bouncing over the curbs coming out of Oggies. And about to gain another place down the Bentley Straight comes Simon Walton. He's about to move his way up into 4th place at the wheel of the number 20 car. So the Mark 3.5 petrol engine machine picks off John Baker. He also picks off Simon Waugh in a straight line, so he's up to 3rd overall now in the race is Simon. How's the other petrol engine car getting on? That's a number 25 car about to head through shot now. That is Gary Mitchell. And Gary is now focusing his attentions on the next car ahead of him, which will be the number 28 car of Thomas Brown. So that will put Gary Mitchell up to inside the top 10, I would have thought now, at the wheel of the second of the 3.5 Mark STs. So Alistair Topley is about to complete what will be the penultimate lap of the race this time through, because 8-minute restart, I said we'd get 4 laps in. That's exactly what we're going to get, because this is lap 3 of the restart that's about to be completed. And Alistair Topley has a bit of a gap between himself and Simon Walton, who I think will move through into second at the end of this lap. Yes, he does. The 300 brake horsepower petrol engine machine moves through into second position. A slightly newer shaped Ford Focus ahead of all of the diesels that line up behind. So it's Alistair Topley from Simon Walton, Mark McCann from Simon Waugh, John Baker from the number 27 car of Ian Graham. Ian Graham has got behind him Gary Mitchell. Then it's Adam Winter, followed by the number 28 car, which will be Thomas Brown. And then wrapping up the top 10 at the moment is going to be the car of Craig Ballantyne. So that completes the top 10 for you. Simon Waugh, can he hang on to 4th position is the big question. John Baker, who lies 2nd in the championship and will finish 2nd in the championship, is right behind him at the moment at the wheel of the blue number 10 machine. Clock has ticked to 0. They are on their last lap of the race. Fastest lap of the race has just gone to the non-championship scoring petrol engine machine of Simon Walton. And just to give you an idea, Simon Walton's fastest lap, 2 minutes 24.4. That was in traffic, and that was still about a second quicker than the race leader was doing, Alistair Topley. But of course that involved, I think, 2 or maybe 3 overtakes on that lap for Simon Walton. So give him a clear lap, and yeah, you're going to be about 4 to 5 to maybe 6 seconds quicker in the petrol engine cars next year, once they are fully developed and introduced into the championship, for which we are expecting about half a dozen of them in. Talking to Simon earlier on this weekend. Second of the test cars is Gary Mitchell. He is hounding the JCB-backed car of Ian Graham around the circuit, but Alistair Topley is heading down the Bentley Straight in the lead of the race, with the man behind the championship closing in on him, Simon Walton. So Simon Walton turns his way through Brundle and Nelson. The Power Max car of Alistair Topley still leading the way. Simon Walton there in the newer shape car in second position. And then looks as though Mark McCann is going to hang on to third here by the look of things, because I don't think Simon Waugh is quite close enough to mount a challenge in the closing stages of this one. So through Coreham for the final time. Up towards the braking area for Murray shortly will come Alistair Topley, who has had mixed fortunes today. Say earlier on today, he finished 7th in the first race of the day. He retired whilst running on the podium spots earlier on, but he is going to pick up the win in the final race of the 2024 championship season for the Focus Cup. Alistair Topley, in the evening sunlight here at Snetterton, claims the final win of the season and his first win of the season, and what I think is his first weekend of racing in Focus Cup. Simon Walton finishes in second place. Third place will go the way of Mark McCann, and Simon Waugh just finishes in fourth place, ahead of the next of the test cars, the petrol engine cars of Gary Mitchell, who sneaks himself up to fifth ahead of John Baker, who completes the top 6. Then it's Ian Graham, Craig Ballantyne, Thomas Brown and Simon Watts that complete the top 10, with Adam Winter in 11th place, Bryony Davis 12th. And then I think the next one up is going to be number 99 car that was next up. I was going to say Sarah Hall, but the 99 car is Richard Hall, who of course started from the pit lane, so he did make good progress after his pit lane start. Still a couple more cars to take the checkered flag. I think Sarah Hall will be the last of those to take the checkered flag, because we did see Ian Howard come into the pit lane at the end of the penultimate lap of the race, the number 37 car that had been going really well in his hands this weekend. He was 4th in the race earlier on today and backed that up with another 4th later on this afternoon, but it's been retirement for him in the final race of the season. Final car to take the checkered flag this year is going to be number 21 Sarah Hall, whose father is also a racing driver. He used to race things like Metro 6R4s up at Croft. So then let's just confirm the results for the final race of the 2024 season in the Focus Cup. Alistair Topley claims the last win of the year from the man behind the championship, Simon Walton, in the development car for next year, finishing in second place, with Mark McCann in third. Simon Waugh finally got a good result. He finishes in fourth place, ahead of Gary Mitchell in the second of the test cars, who was fifth. John Baker was there in sixth. Ian Graham, Craig Ballantyne, Thomas Brown and Simon Watts complete the top 10 for you. Then as we head outside of the top 10, it's Adam Winter from Bryony Davis, ahead of Richard Hall, who was next up. He finished in 13th place. 14th place went the way of Craig Appleton, with 15th place being Cameron Ferrero-Mack. Then it was going to be Simon Langford, who was in 16th place. 17th place was the number 57 car that finished in 17th place. That was Ainsley Bird. And the last of the cars to take the checkered flag was the car of Sarah Hall. Problems in the closing stages for Ian Howard. We know of the problems that brought about safety car initially for Lewis Clark, and also another car that had its problems earlier on was poor old Abby Walton, who was feeling slightly second-hand. Hopefully, though, just some light damage to maybe some muscles in her wrist or something like that after the incident that brought about the red flag. And that concludes not just our weekend of racing here at Snetterton for the Focus Cup, that concludes our 2024 championship season. Thank you for joining us, whether you've joined us for the first time this weekend or you've followed all of the footage throughout the course of the year. But remember, we'll do it all again in 2025 when we start the season late March at Donington Park. So from everybody here at the Focus Cup, Onside Productions and at Snetterton, we'll see you next year. Goodbye.